Welcome to another edition of Tejanos Today Talk Show. I'm your host, Richard Gonzales. This is a Tejano Gold radio production under the direction of Tony Vasquez. Welcome, everyone. Today it is my pleasure to have a guest to my right. Her name is Rosalinda Martinez. Welcome, Rosalinda.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. Today's topic will really be something that I think a lot of us need to really get involved in, and especially during the summertime when we have more time, and that is reading and going to the library. Rosalinda happens to be one of the advisory board members of the Fort Worth Public Library, and I've asked her to come to talk about the Fort Worth Public Library and all that it has to offer. People may not realize, but there is quite a bit of free services that the library offers to Fort Worth residents, and we're going to go into some detail about that. But before we get into that, I always would like to know more about our guests. So Rosalinda, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay. Well, I would first like to say thank you for inviting me. And my name is Rosalinda Martinez. I'm a longtime resident of Fort Worth. Been married to my husband, Arturo Martinez, who is was born and raised here in Fort Worth. We have 3 beautiful children. We're both, well, my whole family, we're very active in our community. I serve on several boards and committees. I started off with the PTA at our local school with my children. And then from there, I was assigned to the Fort Worth ISD district committees. The district advisory committee, I am the parent representative for the middle school. I also serve on the Citizens Oversight Committee, which we kind of oversee the 2014 bond. And then I serve with the Hispanic Women's Network of Texas, the Fort Worth chapter. I've been with them we've been members for the past 5 years. In the past 2 years, I've been on the board. I serve on the North Texas Area Health Care Centers. Here, our main clinic is here on North. I've been on their board of directors for the past 2 years, and of course, the last board that I serve on is the Library Advisory Board.
Very good. So it sounds like you've been involved in quite a few community activities, boards. Well, that's good. We need a lot more volunteer services to make our community vibrant and to provide some input.
Yes.
Well, that's good. Well, let me ask you, you mentioned the last item was that you're on the advisory board. What is exactly that role that you play with the Fort Worth Library?
Well, our role, the board itself, it's an advisory board, so we really just make recommendations to the city council, and such as the budget and then every year we set our goals for the upcoming year. So I am the incoming chair for 2017. So currently I'm going over my new goals for next year.
How long have you been on the board?
I've been on the board for a year.
And you're already going to be
and
the
so
chairperson?
I'm going to be chair-elect, yes.
Wow, you must have impressed some people.
Well, I served on we have a Speakers Bureau committee, so we go out, our main focus is to go out to the community and promote the library. So I actually doubled our speakers, and I added like 6 bilingual Speaker Bureau committee members, and so they were very impressed. So they're like, when you do good stuff, they're like, they just give you more work.
Right.
So then, they reward me. So they're like, you know what? I think you would be great, if you want to be the chair-elect. And I was like, yeah, I gave it some thought. I was like, yeah, sure, I would love to. So that's how that came out to be.
Very good. Are you the only Latina on the advisory board?
Yes, I am. I'm the only Latina.
And how did you get on the board? Did someone appoint you?
Yes, actually I was appointed by Sal Espino, our city councilman, Sal Espino. So I currently represent District 2. So I kind of oversee our branches, which is Diamond Hill, Jarvis, Northside, and then the Northwest branch.
Mm-hmm.
So each city council person appoints their own their own person for their district, and they kind of oversee their district.
I see. I assume then that you're a resident of the north side?
Yes, you have to live in your district.
Very good.
Yes.
So then you're more in touch with what the needs are of that area.
Yes.
But as a chair, you're going to have to be aware of
Right.
all
I
the
am
needs
of
for
all
the
the
city.
needs for the city. Yes, and we have 16 branches. So although we're Fort Worth, and we put it in our budget to build a whole new branch. So we'll see how that goes.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you're taking on some leadership roles that are probably desperately needed, especially a voice from the Latino community needs to be on board. I can personally attest to that because, as you know, we had a book signing for myself,
Yes,
and it was through your efforts that I was able to do that. And I thank you very much for opening the door and allowing my book to be showcased there at the Fort Worth Public Library. That was really nice.
And we really enjoyed it, and that's one of my personal goals is to showcase Latino and Latina authors and to show just celebrate our diversity. That is one thing I do notice that we do not have a lot of Latino or Latino authors, and that's just one of my personal goals that I want to continue to showcase, not just in my community but as a city, as the whole city, just to celebrate our diversity.
Let me ask you, do you have any influence into what the library purchases to put in the books, in the library as far as books are concerned?
No, like I said, we just recommend, we can recommend,
Okay.
and then it's up to, of course, our library director, and we currently have Dr. Glenise Robinson, and then, so we don't really get into the operations of the actual library.
I see.
Yeah. But we can make recommendations all we want, and then it's, of course, up to our.
If they have the authority.
Yeah,
It's
they
one
have
of those
the-
situations where I can, advice is free.
Yeah.
But if you have the purse strings, you actually
Right.
are the one who make the final decision.
Right.
Because one of the interests that I have, of course, is not just my book, but other books written by and about Latinos, I think, would make a great addition to the library. And I wonder who's making those decisions. When they look over the new books that are coming out, hey, we need to be sure we represent that community by having books by them. And I'm preaching to the choir here. You probably know that more than anyone.
And we've actually expanded our Spanish books. So if you go online to the City of Fort Worth library website, you can go and see that we have expanded our Spanish language books.
Yes. Well, you're a lot like me. I'm a bookworm, and it sounds like you're a bookworm.
I am. I do that.
And I enjoy reading books. So what got you interested in working with the library in the first place?
Well, like I said, we have 3 children, and they're all very close in age. So and I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. For the past 9 years, I was stay-at-home mom. So we would always visit the library and the museums, because a lot of people don't know that those are free. And so my kids, at a very young age, they had their own library card. And I think it showed them also independence. Like when they got their library card, they were so excited, like, oh, look, I have my own card. This is my card. And any school-age child can get their library card.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, of course, I've always loved books. I always loved reading. And once I've had kids, I kind of build that foundation too with them. So now they love books. I always tell people the story about my son. When he was a little bit older and he lost his wallet. And he was like, Mom, I lost my wallet. I was like, well, I was like, did you have money? He's like, no, Mom, I had the most important thing. And I was like, what is it? He said, my library card. He's like, I lost my library card. But I thought that was so cute. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I'm raising them right.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
you taught him what was important and what is the value, right?
Yes, he didn't worry about his money. It was his library card. He was
They
worried
needed
about.
that library card.
He
Yeah.
did, yeah. It was,
That's excellent. Let me ask you, so as a young child yourself, were you interested in reading, or is that something that you developed later in life?
No, I've always been interested in reading. Like most of our community, my parents were immigrants, and so they didn't speak English. So I learned by watching TV and listening to the radio and going to the library. Reading taught me how to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds weird, but reading taught me how to speak English. um, the small one-word books. And so from then on, I've always had a love for books and reading.
So your first language was Spanish?
Yes, my first language was Spanish.
And then you became bilingual?
And then I became bilingual at a young age. Yes.
So you had a interest, a curiosity, of course, and if you were in the United States, to learn
Yes,
English.
to learn English.
And therefore you developed an interest in that by
Yes.
reading and going to the library.
Mhm.
That's excellent. So it's, again, this may sound like a silly question because you are definitely hooked on reading. But let me ask you for our audience purposes, why is it important to read? Why do we need to develop that?
I think it helps us, for me, reading kind of, it's equal to education and self-improvement. It helps you improve yourself. And there's as of lately, I read a lot of self-improvement books. So I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I think I learn a lot from reading books.
Can you name some of the books that you've read?
The fourth, I can't remember the name of the book.
Some of your favorite?
Yeah, Stephen Covey is one of my favorite self-help books. The Art of War, that one, I've read that one. And I'm really into just this, the seven habits of highly effective people. That was the last one I read. What was Who Moved My Cheese?
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good one. And of course, I love romance. One of my favorite all-time books is Gone with the Wind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read that more than once, and I felt that I've read it in different times of my life. And so I've read it probably multiple times. And every time I read it, I discover something different about the book.
Really?
Depending on where I am in my life. The first time I read it was in high school. And back then it was just a romance story. Then I read it again when I was in college. And then it was something different. And then I read it as I got older, in my late 30s, and it was a totally different book. So it's, I found that fascinating, that how books change, how, as you change, your perspective changes of the book that you read.
Right, your experiences probably have come into play that you didn't have earlier.
Right.
And now you see something different, or a character development.
Yes, the character.
That's wonderful. You mentioned your children, and you've gotten them hooked on reading.
Yes.
What kind of books do they read?
They read a lot of sci-fi, a lot of classics. We've actually read as a family. We've read Moby Dick, A Time to Kill. The last book that we read was Esperanza Rising, which was a bilingual. It was not fully bilingual, but it did have some Spanish words in it, and they really enjoyed that one. And it was written by a Latino author.
Excellent.
So that was the last book with them.
You mentioned that you read as a family.
Yes.
Why is that important to read as a family, or read to your children?
I feel it's important, like I said earlier, to build that foundation of reading. And so once you get them hooked on reading, and now I don't even have to tell them, hey, it's time to turn off the TV or your electronics and read. They do it on their own. They read on their own. And so before, like now I have two teenagers and an 11-year-old, and they'll read to me. They'll read. And of course now they're reading like my daughter, the last series she read was the Twilight Saga. And I read it with her because I wanted to know what she was reading.
Right.
And that was fun. It was, for her, it was fun to read it with her. And
Would that have been a book that you would have read on your own?
no,
I
I would not have read it on my
That would
own.
be your choice.
But it was funny because at the end we were hooked. And then, because I made her read all the books first, and then we saw the movies. Then we went and saw the movies because they eventually became movies.
Right.
So there's another one that she's into. I can't think of it, but they're also they made them into movies, and I'm so proud of her because she reads the books first, and then we take her to see the movie, and then she always says like, it wasn't as good as the book, and I was like, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, there's so much more complexity they could put in a book, and to go into more character development. and plot than they can in a movie, because you have to imagine they have to fit everything in that book that maybe takes you about 5 to 7 hours to read, whereas the movie's only an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know.
So they're not going to be able to put everything.
Or she was like, they missed half of the stuff. It wasn't in there. I was like, see, now you know. It's always better to read the book.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
That's great. How soon should parents start reading to their children, do you think?
Well, I've always read to them at a very, very young age. I think it's important. First, just the sound of your voice. They get used to the sound of your voice. And so when they were, newborns, I would read to them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Excellent. So you understand, or you probably know this already, the science literature says that children start developing their brains right from
Yes.
the get-go when they're born, and the first 3 or 4 years are very critical for them to develop their brain. And one way of doing that, of course, is talking to them, getting them involved, stimulating them, but also reading to them, because supposedly that builds their
I was
vocabulary.
going to say it does, but all three of my children they were reading by the time they were in kindergarten. And I believe it has a lot to do with us reading at home. And of course they were in pre-K, but it has a lot to do with reading at home. And their vocabulary, they had a large vocabulary. And their teachers would always say, wow, you can tell you read at home. Because they had a large vocabulary.
That's wonderful. Yes. That puts them so much further ahead.
It does.
In getting ready for school. Just the teachers don't have to spend that much more time with your children, but then you have to spend more time with children
other children, yes.
Who maybe didn't have that advantage as you provided with them. That's a good.
And I always tell people it doesn't matter. I know that a lot of my Spanish-speaking moms will say, well, I don't know how to read in English. It's like, you do not have to read in English. You can read Spanish, French, whatever language you speak, as long as you read to them. That's what's important. It doesn't matter if you speak English, just read to them in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And it still builds their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular, I know you said you're representative of the north side here, but is there a particular library that you go to more often?
I do go to the Diamond Hill Library once in a while and the North Side branch, but our favorite is the Central Library. It just it's bigger, it has more resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very nice looking library.
Yes, it's nice. The only problem with that is the parking. Mm-hmm. But I always tell people, if you ever have a chance, go visit the Central Library.
Mm-hmm. I do go visit the Central Library, believe it or not, and I have a card for the Central Library. And one of the things I learned about the parking is that you can get free parking down the street. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. Because, we usually just pay for parking, or if you go after hours, it's free.
Right, but during the daytime, there's, just at the end of the block, there's I don't know what they call it, you just go in and you go around and around.
Is it the garage?
The garage. It's just right down the street. And what you do is you pick up the ticket, of course it stamp times it,
right.
And then you go in and they will validate it, and it's good for 2.5 hours of free parking.
Oh, see, that's something new. I didn't know. Yeah. That's good to know.
Well, the audience maybe want to know, because they may say, well, it's expensive, or there's not much parking downtown. Well, there is parking right down the street.
Good, that's good to know. Now I can tell.
And then when people, they need to get it, of course, you need to look at when it was date stamped so that you'll know, okay, you have 2.5 hours, that's going to be okay, for free. And then when you take it in, whether you do it at the beginning or at the end of your visit, you only have 2.5 hours. So
they'll validate 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
In other words, they'll give you 2.5 hours worth of credit.
Okay.
And then when you check out of the garage, you just circle all the way down, and you get out, and you just give it to the clerk, and they say, okay, open the little barrier, and you're out free. You don't have to pay. So that's another library benefit that I just taught you.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that.
That's good. But as you said, after hours it's free.
Yes, after hours it's free.
After 6 o'clock, I think.
6. It's after 6.
And normally most of the cars are there because of businesses, and they're not there, so there's plenty of space. And on weekends, is it free on weekends?
It's free on weekends too. Yes, hiking is free on weekends.
Excellent. You mentioned this before about your children. They're like other children. They have a lot of electronic gizmos that they probably. How do you get them to put that down? I mean, all of us have iPhones or cell phones, and we're always on it. And to be honest, I know that those electronic gadgets are helpful, and
Right.
if you're a busy person, you can always get on it. But one of the negatives that I have seen, for example, I'll give you a specific example. Sometimes I go to restaurants, and I look at the people in the other tables, and I will see people not talking to each other, but everybody at that table is on their phone.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, what happened to just talking to one another when you're out, for a meal or something? So how do you get your children to put down their gadgets and pick up a book instead?
Well, we've always taught them at a very young age, especially during school year. They don't watch TV Monday through Friday, like during the week. But they're also very involved with their own activities in school, after school programs. They're really involved with Artes de la Rosa. So they don't really have a chance to be on their electronics as much. So I think at a young age, you have to teach these kids at a very young age. So even now, they'll know, okay, so every night you have to read a chapter of your book. It doesn't matter, just read. So we have a cutoff time. So you can watch TV. We're not animals. We let them watch TV and they can get on the internet. I mean, the kids can't live without internet nowadays. They don't know anything else. And my 14-year-old daughter does have a cell phone. She just recently, on her 14th birthday, we got her a cell phone. And so she does have a cell phone, but we limit the time that she's on it and what she can look up on the internet. And we both try to teach our children that there's a difference between web search and research. So we have old encyclopedias, we have dictionaries, and so we tell them, go and look up words. Don't just go and look it up on the internet. Go and look up, look at the dictionary and try to, because I feel they still need those skills.
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way.
Go get a
Go get a book. Because Google doesn't know everything. And actually,
What?
I know, like, Google doesn't know everything, and a lot of people don't know that the library has probably 10 times more information than Google does. So we own a lot of information. So if you want to do any kind of research, I'd suggest you go to the library and not Google. Don't Google it, because and then some of it it's misinformed. So I mean, with Wikipedia, anybody can make something up and say it's real. So you have to, I think, at a young age, you have to teach them the difference between what's real or what's on the internet, and then how to research, information through the library or through a book. And I think that's what the library teaches people, is how to research. And if you don't know how to research, we have librarians that will help you. We have a lot of resources.
That's what I was going to mention also, is that let's say you really don't know how to research, or you're young, or even if you're old and you have not used the services. One of the good things about libraries, it has librarians
Yes, I was going to say, have librarians.
who have received, I think, a master's in library science or something of that nature, and therefore they're trained and they know all the resources that the library has to offer. They're there to help the public.
The public, yes.
I mean, that's their job.
That's their
Therefore, don't be hesitant to go up and talk to a librarian and say, hey, I need some assistance on finding information about this. Even teenagers, right?
Yes. Well, we have, in every branch has a teen section that if they feel comfortable, they can go in the teen section and then they'll help them. But libraries we're in a transforming stage where a lot of our stuff is going digital. I mean, we have to change with the times too, because we always have to serve the people, and if that's what they need. So we're just a resource. And a lot of our librarians are now, they know how to find stuff digitally, and so they know how to research through the web or electronic files.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I don't know if anybody knows, but they used to do it paper, and they used to do the, what would they call it?
Microfiche?
Yeah, so everything's digitalized now.
Yeah. Well, I was old enough to remember that.
See, I couldn't even remember. I couldn't remember either, like the where you used the.
Yeah, they call it microfiche.
Microfiche, yeah, I couldn't remember. So, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they used to have them on rows, and then you have readers,
Yeah,
and
see,
you,
I was.
and you do this. You say, and you go fast, and the faster you go, the quicker that reader would do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you may get a Charlie horse here in your hand doing this, but that was our way of doing it
Yeah,
back in the old days. They don't do that anymore.
They don't. I was like, they don't do that anymore. Yeah, even our all of our photography, which I can discuss that later with the archives, but that's also been digitalized. We digitalized the whole photography too.
Mhm.
So now you can go to the website and find everything on the website.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Again, we have those services as well as librarians.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, I went to a very nice program that the library presented about the opening of the Latino American Archives.
Yes.
Can you
yes.
talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, that was kind of a partnership with actually the Human Relations unit. They're the ones that they received a grant, and the Latino Americanos 500, and with that grant, we were able to establish the Latino archives for Fort Worth. So it was an ongoing project for probably a year. And I'm looking at my husband because he serves on the Human Relations. He's a commissioner, and I think it was about a year that we worked. It was a partnership, not just the library, but the Human Relations, a lot of the other organizations, including the Hispanic Women's Network, Mano. I hate to leave people. TCU. It was a long list of partners, but it was a partnership, and so and I'm very happy. Me personally, I'm very happy that we were able to do that because I feel that as a community, we need to document, document, our history too, because we didn't have one. We had an African American archives, but never a Latino archive, and so now we do.
Well, I don't mean to correct you,
Oh, no.
but for example, before the Latino Archive,
Oh, what did we have something?
they did have the Sam Garcia papers,
Okay.
and he had, I don't know if you knew this.
I didn't know.
Did you know who Sam Garcia was by any chance?
No, I don't. I don't know.
That needs to be in your archives because
Okay.
he was really a pioneer of collecting Latino history. He had a newspaper, in fact, here back in the 60s, and he recently expired. I think it was about 2 years ago he died.
Oh.
But before that, he was quite an activist and quite involved in the community. And one of the things he did, though, was collect information. You wouldn't believe it, just boxes and boxes of information about Latino history. He wrote a newsletter, and he had it. He kept the newsletter editions, and he just was a guy. I'm not saying he was a hoarder in the bad sense, but he was a hoarder in the good sense, where
Yes,
he collected a lot of information. And at one point, he was debating whether to contribute his information to the UTA
Oh, okay.
or the Fort Worth Public Library. And he decided, I think somebody talked to him, and decided to donate it to the Fort Worth Public Library.
That's great.
And it's there. Also, Delsa Garcia, do you know her? She is a photographer, but she collected quite a bit of
I've
stuff.
heard of her. I have heard of her before.
And she donated a lot of her
I was gonna say,
papers.
I think we've had some of her stuff. So I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100%, but pretty sure that we do have some of theirs incorporated with the archives.
Right. So I think what happened is neither of those individuals had a grant or anything
All
like
right,
that.
they just did it on their own.
Right. They donated to a gentleman by the name of, he's not employed there, his name was Tom Kellum. He was the main archivist who was at that time there, and he collected the materials, and I think he went ahead and sorted them out. I had the opportunity to go through his documents, and that's why I know about him. What's happened since then, as you pointed out, the city has gotten this grant to go ahead and promote Hispanic history, Latino history, and has moved forward with this, and that's wonderful. I'm glad that
Yes,
they did
I'm
that,
glad too.
and they have extra money then to really get it into this really nice foundation basis, this research basis, so that people can come and take advantage of it. Let me ask you, also there was a call out to donate information. Is that right? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we did do a call out, and like I said, we ran it through the partnerships that we had, all the organizations, and TCU did a lot of our oral history recording, and so they did that part. And then the library, we actually did in partnership with the Human Relations Unit. We did events. We did one in Northside and one at Harvey Center, the Harvey Center. And so we did two of those where people could come and donate, or they didn't have to donate, they could lend, and then we would make copies or a scan items. And that's how we were able to get a lot of the documents or items in our archives.
Mhm.
But we continue to take donations. If you want to donate, or if you just want to go by the library, we can make copies of the materials that you have. You can go to like I said, our website, the City of Fort Worth Library website, and call the archivist and make an appointment, and they will meet with you and set up an appointment and take your donations. Or like I said, if you want, just lend it to us, we'll take care of it and make copies or scan the items.
And things that we're talking about are like photos.
A lot of newspaper clippings, or even materials like maybe a flag or something like that.
Some memorabilia.
Some memorabilia, yes.
From the past.
From the past, yes.
That's excellent. Now, as I mentioned, about 3 weeks ago, I think June the 2nd, somewhere there,
Yes.
you had this opening celebration, and I remember going through the hall, and you had all these really neat old photos
Yes.
of residents from Fort Worth from way back when, and some of their descendants actually were there,
Yes.
standing
Yes,
right there next to
yeah,
the
it was really
photograph.
nice to see. It was really great to see.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That really brought back to life the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, we may have forgotten our history, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean that we cannot go back and get it, dig it up, and bring it out. So let me ask you, why is it important to remember our history?
That's what I was gonna say. To remember our history, but I kind of focus more on our younger generation, because I feel that it helps to identify who they are and where they come from. Because if they don't know where they come from, I don't think they would lose their identity. And so we're both, as parents, we're both very proud of our heritage and our culture, and we teach our children that. But we celebrate, like I was saying earlier, we celebrate diversity. We try to teach our children to about other cultures, to not just theirs. But I feel it's important that if you don't know where you come from, then you don't know who you are. And so I think it's important for us to document all this, our history, in order for our children to be able to identify themselves and where they come from.
Right. You know, the show is called Tejanos Today.
Yeah. Yes.
But we maybe could change the name to Tejanos Ayer. No, not really. But I'm saying that we are Tejanos. If you're living in Texas,
Yes.
and you're Latino, there's a lot of names we call ourselves. You know, Chicano, Hispanic, Mexican American, whatever you want to call yourself, Spanish, whatever. But another term that we've often used is Tejanos, which differentiates us from the fact that we're not Mexicanos. I mean, our descendants come from Mexico, and we certainly should be proud of our heritage that they come from that beautiful country. But we also, right now, are living in Texas, and the Tejanos were here before the Americanos came. Of course, the Indians were here first, and then the Tejanos came, and I think that's a rich history. And
Yes.
for all the reasons that you pointed out, it's important to remember our history. And we're here still. In fact, our numbers are growing every day. Therefore, I think it becomes of more importance.
Yes.
So we can figure out where we came from, where we are today, and where we want to be in the future. That's excellent. So we talked about the Latino Archives,
Yes.
and again, that's a beautiful program. I'm glad we have this kind of treasure trove, this spaces, and people who can come and talk to the archivist, look through the materials. Can't take it with you,
No.
but you can look at it and see something about your history, as well as donate, as you pointed out. That's great. What else? What other programs does the library have to offer?
Well, we offer a lot of of course, reading programs, the story time for the younger kids. And when people think about the library, they always think about early childhood literacy, but we also focus a lot on adults. We have a lot of adult programming, and we have a lot of partnerships such as UTA, TCC. We do GED classes. We offer GED classes, and you can go and pick up. Every branch should have our. We print out a program,
Right.
and we have a summer program. We have a fall program, a spring program, and it lists all the programs that we offer during that time.
Yeah, I was just going through this,
Yes.
and wow, I was impressed with the number of different activities that the library puts on. And I know they don't intentionally try to make this a secret. And
No.
it's not, but it is available,
Yes.
and I think with people like yourself representing the North Side, and I'm sure the other representatives make it known in the community that there's all these programs, and one of the good things about it is that it's free.
It's free, yes. I do, people, sometimes when I'm out in the community, the first question that they ask me is, how much does the library cost? And I always tell people, it's free, and then once you sign up, all the programs, and if you go, because you do need a library card in order, because we offer free Wi-Fi and internet service, but you do need a library card in order to access the internet and the computers and all the information.
And one of the things I want to make clear too, that citizenship is not a criteria to get
No.
your card.
Yeah,
right?
the only criteria is we do need some kind of identification and just with your address to know that you live within Fort Worth, in Fort Worth.
Because this is really being paid by the citizens of
It's
Fort
a
Worth.
city, yeah, it's a city, we're run by the city of Fort Worth. We're just a department. So you do have, the only criteria is that you have to have a picture ID, and then you have to live within our resident, to live in the city.
Excellent. And can we go talk a little bit about
Yes.
this program? Because again, this is the summer 2016, May
Yes.
1st to August 31st program. And just going through it, I'm just so impressed. And already some of the programs have taken place because we're into it.
Right,
But for example, you have Fort Worth Genealogical Society.
yes,
And Latinos or anybody could go there and start learning about your history, right?
yes.
A lot of us probably have families that go all the way back to Spain, even, or even back further as far as the Indios are concerned. And this will help you start your genealogy search, will it not?
Yes, that's correct. And I would like to mention that our program is, it's bilingual. It's both Spanish and English, so people can read it if you don't understand English. It is in Spanish.
And you have community history workshops that TCU puts on.
Yes. And one of our, the most recent program that I'm really excited about is the computer programming. We had, Photoshop. So we had Photoshop, and that is a partnership that we have with UTA. And these are like what?
Web-based?
Web-based design, and then Photoshop. And people were so stunned, like, you're off. I mean, that's something that you would have to pay for, either at a community college or a university. But we're offering these for free, and they're taught by UTA professors.
And all you do is just go ahead and sign up.
You do have to sign up because they do have a certain amount of seats available.
Mm-hmm. And I see that you have them, for example, at the Central Lab, PC Basics,
Yes.
Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Internet Basics, Email Basics, Social Media, Cyber, Seniors.
Yeah.
That's for the
For
older
the older individuals who are learning how to use the.
who were using the microfiche and that roller thing, but
Yes.
now they don't need to do that.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I would like to point out that our GED classes are offered through Tarrant County College. So we partner up with them also. And like I said, they're all free. All the classes are free, and we offer those in English and in Spanish.
And again, is there a charge for those classes?
No, they're free. They're
They're
free
free
classes. You just
classes.
have to pre-register because they do fill up pretty fast.
You happen to have a phone number here too.
Yes, the number they can call.
So anybody out there who's interested in getting a GED, and you don't want to have to pay for it, of course,
Right.
just give them a ring here. It's in the program. Even all they need to do too, one or two things, is if they're computer savvy, they can go on the computer, look up over the public library, and find out some of these programs.
Yes, you can go to our website, the City of Fort Worth Library.
Another option is to
Visit your local branch.
library.
We would love to have people visit their branch.
and talk to a librarian.
Librarian.
And I've been on the north side, and I've noticed that it appears that all the librarians are bilingual.
Yes, especially, of course, in our community, Diamond Hill and Northside, we do have bilingual staff.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you a little story. I was in Chicago about 6 months ago, and I love staying in Chinatown, and just for cultural development, and I like the Chinese people and whatever. So I was staying in Chinatown, and they have a brand new library in Chinatown. So I wanted to get on the internet. The hotel I was staying in was not that fancy, and it was in Chinatown, but they didn't have internet connection. So I went to the local library, and I got on the internet on the library. But then I was going to check out. Okay, so this was in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being on the north side. A lot of the north side people that you see in the library are Latino, right?
Yes.
So in Chinatown, most of the people there were Chinese.
Yes.
Chinese Americans.
Yes.
So you saw signs in Chinese or whatever. As I was checking out, though, I saw an African American who was checking out, and I wanted to print something, and I asked him in English because I don't speak Chinese. I said, how do I get this printed? And he gave me the instructions and all that. So everything was cool. So as I was leaving, a Chinese lady, older woman, came up there and started speaking to Chinese. And I had to stop. And I didn't turn around because I don't want to make it too obvious. But that guy could speak Chinese. And he addressed her and all that. My point of all this story is, first of all, he was obviously bilingual.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we, I think, take a stereotype view of people, and you really don't know them unless you talk to them and figure out. But I bet you one of the requirements in working in the Chinatown library was that you had to learn how to speak Chinese.
Yes.
And he was, and I just stopped there. I mean, I didn't look at him. I'd already seen him, and I was thinking, wow, that is wonderful, and that's one of the beauties of working in libraries. You meet all kinds of people, right?
Yes.
And that's the other thing, is that libraries, I know in the old traditional ways, we thought of them as, shh, be quiet.
Yeah.
And you saw these people, and they were kind of mean, the librarians, and you're not supposed to talk, or they would come tell you, hey, keep it down, or something like that. And to a certain extent, that's true. I mean, we need to be respectful of other people. Right. But today's libraries, I find people engaging one another and talking reasonably, civilly.
Right.
I mean, they're not that old, stereotypical, boring place to go to.
No, and now we're kind of considered as community hubs where you can even rent out one of our rooms. We have meeting rooms, not in all of our branches, but on some of our branches. We do have meeting rooms where you can call and reserve them for your meetings or get-togethers. On the Central Library, we do a lot of, they've had weddings there, and so I believe they've had showers. So yeah, it's more than just a warehouse for books. I mean, it's a community hub where people come and learn not only about themselves but other people. You can come and it's more social. You can come and socialize. I don't know. One of our future that we're working on, and that's what we're working on. As I'm become chair, one of my goals is also to bring maker spaces into our library, and so we have these maker spaces where you can come in, and it's a creative a space where we have digital 3D printers, and we have you can build and create. We have tools, and we offer those tools for our patrons so they can come and create stuff. a lot of people, used to, you would go and just read a book and learn, but now we're changing where you can give back too. Like you as a person, I can come and create something. It'll be a part of me. I've created something.
Mm-hmm.
And so these maker spaces are, it's for creative people to come together and build and create stuff. So that's something that I'm really, really excited for. Our first one is going to be in our Northwest branch, and that's one of my branches in our district. And I do not have a date. I know it's going to be in September, but we are going to have a grand opening because we already have that space. In any other future libraries, we are going to have, it's just makes sense to have that space now available for people to come and build and create stuff.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Also, I believe we talked a little bit about this earlier. The libraries, the downtown library offers jazz. Is that correct?
Yes, we have our jazz series, and it's a summer series. We have July. Well, we have 3 months: July, August, and September. And these are fantastic. These are one of our most popular events. You can come out and listen to award-winning jazz players, and it's standing room only. So I always tell people, come early if you want to come to our jazz series. So I believe it's their. It doesn't say how long they've been doing it, but it's been a couple of years now. And it's hosted by the Fort Worth Public Library Foundation. So they're our hosts.
When's the next one?
The next one is July 21st, and it's going to be Women in Jazz. And if you stop by your local branch, you can pick up one of these brochures, and it'll give you the list.
It'll be Central Library. What time will that?
It's Central Library, and it's at 6:30 p.m. And I always tell people to come early so you can find some parking.
And also a seat, because you say sometimes it's standing room only.
It's standing room only. And you can make it a date night. Go hear jazz and then go downtown and have dinner afterwards.
Very good.
Really
Is that
nice.
what you and your husband do?
We do that, yes.
I was wondering how that came about.
Sometimes we take our kids, it is family friendly, and we do take our kids, and because my kids have grown around the library, I feel comfortable that we can go in, and Arturo and I can sit there and listen to the jazz while they're at the teen section.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Because they're really not that interested in jazz yet, but we do take them along with us.
It's when you get the hip hop.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to work on that.
Another program you mentioned to me is now that the library offers passport services.
Yes, and this is something new that we started on June 2nd, and you can stop by, and we are now accepting U.S. passport acceptance. So but you have to call in advance and set up an appointment. It's by appointment only. So, but now we're open from 2 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and 12 noon to 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
Now, I want to be clear about this. This is really run by the U.S. Department of State,
Yes.
not the library, but they're just making this available.
We're making
And
it available.
therefore, this is not free. You are going to have to pay a fee to
Right.
get your passport.
Yes, there is a fee that the city of Fort Worth charges, but I recently took my 3 kids, and we had a wonderful experience. It was really fast, and the process was pretty quick. But there was no lines. There's no lines right now because I don't think a lot of people know about it. So I made my appointments, and as soon as we got there, they were able to help us. So it was.
But you have to call and make an appointment.
Yes, you do have to call in advance to make an appointment, and you can call. I don't know. You can call 817-392-7890, and it's the Central Library.
And it looks like there are specific hours in which
Yes.
you can go. Therefore, be sure to call. Don't walk in because you may go at a time that they're not open.
Right. We don't take any walk-ins. It has to be by appointment only.
Excellent. This is a new service. Again, the library reaching out,
Yes, this
trying to
is a new
provide
service.
more services to the community and make it more convenient. This is at the Central Library. Do the other branch libraries also do this?
No,
or-
just the central library. It's only at the central library.
Excellent. You know, I learned recently, I was down in Laredo,
Mhm.
and I decided I wanted to go visit Mexico because it's just right
Yes.
over Laredo,
Uh-huh.
and I hadn't been there in a number of years. So I did. I went over there, I crossed the border, and then I was coming back, and the American side said, "Okay, where's your passport?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "What?" I
They
said,
asked for a passport.
Yeah, I said, "Well, I've got a driver's license." And then the guy yelled at me, and he said, "So who are you?" And then we went through that whole
Oh, yes.
9 yards about identifying who I am and all that. Knucklehead me, I didn't realize that now they've gotten so strict that you just cannot just cross the border and visit one of the border towns like we used to do in the old days. You know, in the old days, you can just go across and come back, but now they say you need to have either a birth certificate or a passport to even go to a place like Nuevo Laredo. And I was just going down there just to see, just to look.
Right, yes.
And then I came back, but therefore, if you go to the border, take your passport and birth certificate because they will grill you.
Mhm.
And I'm probably on the most wanted list because the guy went and
It's probably your name. Yeah.
put on the computer and he said, "You stand right there." I said, "Okay." And he started putting my information. I gave my driver's license. I said, "Okay, I guess we have an international incident going on right here." But I got across. I'm here.
Oh, that's good. And it's good to have your passport because you never know. Even at a young age, it's good to have a passport.
Yeah, right. That's helpful. We've been talking about children and what the library has to offer, but one of the things I think that we shouldn't neglect is that I would like to see adults, and personally, since I'm a reader and I'm a writer, you're a reader, is that I'd like to see more adults read.
Yes.
I've often, not often, I've done once in a while a test, and I will ask somebody, "What's the last book you read?" And when they hesitate, and there's that long pause, I'm not trying to embarrass them.
Right, no, yeah.
But when I hear that long pause, I'm thinking, they probably haven't read a book in a while. And I understand how we're so busy in our lives that we have a lot of demands. If you're a parent, you have children, you have, you know, mothers and fathers, and you have to take care of people and become part of the, you know, the community. You're involved in a lot of meetings. But I think it helps. It's a little bit like going to church. You go to church and you get to rejuvenate spiritually and take time to understand, okay, what's important in life. But in order to keep your mind, I think, sharp and active and always learning, is you're going to have to read a book once in a while.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. I'm nodding my head, yes. Yes, I do. And people always say, well, I don't have time. But believe it or not, the highest group of readers is our youth. A lot of our youth really do love to read. They do love to read. I think it's when you become an adult is when you stop reading. That
Why is that?
children
Why?
read all the time. Children, of course, read all the time, and then even teenagers. When usually our society says, "Oh, they don't read." Yes, they do. They read a lot. I mean, we have numbers where, like I said, our largest population that check out books are our youth, young readers. So they do read. It's the adults that don't read, and it's probably, like you were saying, is time. That they don't have time, or they're so busy with life. But I think we always make time. We make time. Oh, and we now have audiobooks. So
very good.
even if you just driving, I know a lot of people may work in Dallas or Arlington. So get an audiobook and put it in your car and just listen to it. It's it's on your way to work or at night before you go to bed. You can just listen to the audiobooks. I do that at work because I work for Tarrant County College and I work for the district and I do a lot of processing. So I'm able to just listen to audiobooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your mind is able to still focus
Yes.
on what you're doing, and then
I've worked with TCO over the past 6 years, so I know what I'm doing. So
you can do it in your sleep.
yeah, I can do it in my sleep. But that's because we are so busy, but we do make time. We also make time to read, but audiobooks is also It's fantastic. We went, not, recently we were on vacation and we were driving probably an hour and a half. And I feel so bad because I don't remember the name of the book. But my husband got a book, not even a book, and he put it in the car. And all of us, my kids, everybody, were there like, we don't want to listen to it. But it was so funny because then later on, we were coming back and they were discussing the book. And it was like a self-help book.
Yeah.
Crucial conversations. And they're like, remember? They said something about crucial conversations, but it was so funny because you know what? They listened to it. They were listening to. They had the little earplugs too, but we had the car, and so we were listening to the through the speakers in the car. But they also heard it too. It was really funny.
I want to not neglect the fact that the library also, the Central Library,
Mm-hmm.
I think they still have it. It's called Rincón de Español.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Spanish corner.
Yes.
And they have books just in Spanish.
Yes,
is that
they
right?
do. Yes, they do.
So our monolingual Spanish speakers should feel inclusive. That is, that they will have books for them as well.
Yes, they do.
And
have
also on
books.
the north side, because I've been at the north side libraries and I've seen that they have quite a few selections in Spanish themselves,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it depends on on where our branch is, but Diamond Hill has a large. We have some Spanish. Diamond Hill and Northside, we do have some Spanish audiobooks, and of course, the regular books.
Excellent, very good. One of the things I noticed too about this program is that you're always open for volunteers to come and work
Yes.
for the library.
We do have volunteers, and we start, I believe, at 16, and they can come and volunteer. We work. Like I said, we have a lot of volunteers within the community. I know that we work with the Girls Inc., and we have some of our young volunteers or from high school. I know that Diamond Hill, we have a lot of volunteers from Diamond Hill Jarvis High School. I'm not sure about Northside, but I would think we would have the same, since Northside High School is close to Northside, our Northside branch. But we do have we do offer a lot of volunteer hours for our community.
So adults can also volunteer.
Yes, adults can also volunteer if you're retired or if you just, work part-time or you can volunteer.
And what kind of work would they be doing?
A lot is just probably helping greet people. We do have, if it's an event and you want to volunteer at our event, such as the jazz series, you would probably be handing out coffee or cookies to people, or some of our new patrons that don't have their events like, just kind of guiding them to the restrooms or where to go. Yeah.
You wouldn't be sweeping the floors.
No, you would
or
not. Oh, no, you would, or shelving books. We don't. You don't do that. You wouldn't do that either. No,
Okay.
it's more.
Or getting the librarians their cup of coffee.
Yeah, you wouldn't. No, you don't.
Okay.
You wouldn't do sometimes. Our community department, we hand these out for events like community events, and maybe we do some swag bags. I think swag bags, or you would be doing stuff like that.
Being very helpful.
Yeah, helpful through that. Yeah, but you wouldn't be shelving books, or you wouldn't be bringing coffee to the librarians. No, you would be working with the community, with the people that come and visit the library.
Plus the fact that you would be socializing with a lot of people, it would get you out of the house. You would be around educated individuals. And
Yes.
I'm sure the librarians will be willing to talk to you.
Yes.
And if you have any questions.
If you have any questions or anything, yes.
Well, this has been very enjoyable. The fact that you're there in the library, I think, has really improved, I think, the services to the Latino community. I think you have opened a lot of doors just by the fact that you are on the board, and therefore we have someone we can talk to if we have an interest in doing an event or making suggestions. You're on the advisory board,
Yes.
and even more important, you're going to be the chairperson now
Yes.
of the library board. So that's good for the north side. Good for
Yes,
the community.
and I do look forward to speaking to people about their suggestions. Once people find out that I'm on the library board, they always they like to suggest, well, you should do this or you should do that, and I was like, yeah, that these are all great ideas, but I would like to tell people that our focus has always been literacy and early childhood literacy, and that will remain our focus. That's our goal. Even though we do offer many programs for adults and other, many programs, but our focus will always be literacy, early childhood literacy. That's why we're here.
Excellent. Well, from one bookworm to another bookworm. There you go.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's been another edition of Tejanos Today. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week. Adios.